Ladies and gentlemen, Psalms 47 says, O clap your hands, O you people. Shout unto God with a voice of triumph, for the Lord Most High is terrible. He is a great king over all the earth. He shall subdue the people under us, and the nations under our feet. He shall choose our inheritance for us, the excellency of Jacob, whom he loved. Selah. God is love. And if you think about it, love basically controls the world. It's desired. People always want love. And the cool thing about love is this. If you have love in your heart, you're a child of God. Yes, you can be children of God by creation, but I'm talking about child of God by having his nature. And when you have God's nature, two things will happen. People either hate you or they'll love you. The reason? They both want what you have. That characteristic, that behavior. And so some people, they react in a way in which, because they're so jealous, they have hate and envy. And other people react in another way where they really want to be close to that person and learn as much as possible. Either way, that's the reaction. All right? And those people are under your feet because they want what you have. And they'll follow you, whether it's for hateful reasons or loving reasons. And you basically have an influence over them. This is like Floyd Mayweather. He's a big-time boxer. Arguably one of the most popular boxers of all time. And he's popular not because people only love him, but people also hate him. And they actually follow him and follow what he does. And they'll actually make hateful comments on him because they hate him. And people love him the same thing. And it's because they want what he has, the success he has, the skills and abilities he has. They want that. And so people are under his influence. So anything Floyd Mayweather does, people are going to follow him. All right? It's the same thing when you're a loving, caring person. So, on that note, I want to just get into the boxing schedules for September the 8th, and I'm going to point out some of the big fights for the month. So let's get into it. First one, David Benavidez versus Ronald Gavril. This is actually a good little fight here that's going to be on Showtime. Two guys, you got the top-ranked fighter facing the TMT fighter. So that should be interesting. Kalen Plant, he's going to face Alan Campa. I don't know Alan Campa. I know Kalen Plant, undefeated. Very good boxer. Jay Leon Love faces Abraham Han. We all know Jay Leon Love. Peter Quillins, he's going to be facing an opponent. So this card is interesting. I mean, the only really competitive fight I see here, because of two people I know, is Benavidez versus Gavril. And that should be interesting. In the month of September, on the 9th, we have an interesting matchup here. Roman Gonzalez gets his rematch against Wasakil Wangek. So that should be that's a championship fight. That should be interesting. Juan Francisco Estrada will be facing Juan Francisco Estrada will be facing Carlos Cuadras. That's another very competitive fight. And so I'm very interested in that. Carlos Cuadras arguably beat Roman Gonzalez. Excuse me. So that should be a good matchup between these two. Naira Inu versus Antonio Nieves. And Brian Valoria versus Miguel Cartagena. Inu, he's known. He's a good boxer. That should be interesting because of him. And Brian Valoria, he just got knocked out by Roman Gonzalez. But that's going to be an interesting fight nonetheless. Maybe they're two comeback fights or whatever. Now, the next time we have some interesting fights is September the 16th, 2017. And that's where Gennady Triple G Golovkin faces Saul Canelo Alvarez. That should be an interesting matchup on HBO pay-per-view and Box Nation. Also, Joseph Diaz will be facing Jorge Lara. That should be interesting. Randy Caballero versus Diego De La Hoya. That's a very interesting matchup. I follow Randy Caballero's career. And he should be really giving... And Diego De La Hoya, so this should be an interesting matchup between these two. So you got two good fights here. You got Golovkin, Alvarez, Caballero, De La Hoya. That's a good card. Also, same night, Billy Joe Saunders will be facing Billy Monroe. It's a competitive fight. That's interesting. Monroe can do a little bit of boxing. He's southpaw. Billy Joe Saunders, he also can box very well. Undefeated fighter. Also WBO champion. So that should be a good fight to go see. Callum Smith will also be facing a guy called Eric Skolund. Callum Smith is one of the Smith brothers. Mark Murray will be also facing Armand Toro Cyan. So there's the interesting fights for the 16th. Then we jump all the way up to September the 22nd. Gilberto Ramirez will be facing Jesse Hart. That's going to be a good, compelling matchup. Both top-ranked fighters. That should be interesting. Oscar Valdez will also Genesis Cervania. I know Oscar Valdez. I don't know this guy. Felix Verdeo will be facing Antonio Lozada Jr. I don't know this guy, but I know Felix Verdeo. So it looks like a top-ranked card. On September the 23rd, we got another compelling fight here. The up-and-coming guy, Luke Campbell, English fighter, Olympian, and Jorge Linares, of course, the lightweight champion and lineal champion, WBA. This should be an interesting matchup. Also, Antonio Orozco versus Roberto Ortiz. And also in the UK, Hughie Fury will face Joseph Parker for the WBO belt. That should be interesting. Also, now when we're looking at some other interesting fights, we have to go all the way down to September the 30th. And the last interesting fight for September will be Mike Perez return facing Maris Bredis. So these are all the September fights. Now let's highlight the big ones. First of all, we start off with Gennady Golovkin versus Saul Canelo Alvarez. That's going to be for the WBC, WBA, and IBF middleweight titles. It looks like a very good fight. Let me just make it abundantly clear, though, that Canelo Alvarez, though they said that he gave up the WBC belt, I thought Gennady Golovkin basically took it from him. I think that he's getting his opportunity to get that belt and the other two belts that Gennady Golovkin has. So this is going to be a great opportunity for Saul Canelo Alvarez. You already know I have Alvarez to win, and I think this is more of a heist than people think. It's more of a heist with respect to Alvarez, because just like Floyd had a heist against Conor McGregor, I think this is a heist for Alvarez. Anyway, you guys will see what I'm talking about. Let's get to the other middleweight fight, which will be against Billy Joe Saunders defending his WBO title against Willie Monroe. And I picked Saunders to win, of course. Willie Monroe is going to give a good fight, but I think Saunders beats him. Better boxer. And he's faced all powers, and he's shown what he can do with a southpaw against a southpaw. And finally, Jorge Linares versus Luke Campbell for the WBA World Lightweight title. That's a good fight. Luke Campbell is on the rise. He's a southpaw. Jorge Linares will be fighting him. So I'm looking forward to this fight. Linares has been only giving us exciting fights. He's now a very seasoned lightweight champion. So I look forward to good things with Jorge Linares. So that's basically it for me with boxing. Just catching up on some fights and telling you about projected fights for this month of September. It's an exciting month. You got this big fight, Billy Joe Saunders, Willie Monroe. You got Gennady Golovkin versus Saul Canelo Alvarez. You got Jorge Linares versus Luke Campbell. And then you got some other compelling matchups. You know, the rematch with Chocolito and the Taiwanese fighter. You got Juan Francisco Estrada versus Carlos Cuadras. These are good matchups, right? You got I'm trying to remember the names, but the names are just eluding me right now. You got David Benavidez versus Ronald Gavril. These are good fights. These are good fights. These are compelling, competitive fights, I think, at least on paper. So that's something that people want to see, right? So there you go. That's what I got to say about that. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any other comments on Randy Caballero versus Diego De La Hoya, that's a good fight as well. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Until that, you guys have a great one.